She ripped into the janitor in front of everyone, mocking him for being an embarrassment to the company, completely unaware he was the new owner, watching it all. Raymond Ellis parked his pickup across the street from McAllister Motors just before 7 a.m. It was early enough that the lot was nearly empty, except for a few employees who liked to arrive before their shift. He sat in his truck a moment longer, staring through the windshield at the dealership's shiny glass front. The sun wasn't fully up yet, but the bright showroom lights were already glowing inside. With a slow breath, he grabbed his mop bucket and duffel bag from the passenger seat and stepped out. His khaki work pants, black slip-proof shoes and blue maintenance shirt with a stitched name tag that read Ray made him look like any other janitor in any other city. But Raymond wasn't just any janitor. Not today. Just 3 weeks earlier, he'd finalized the purchase of McAllister Motors through a holding company. After nearly 30 years in car sales, franchising and real estate, he decided to return to the industry that gave him his start, but this time on his own terms. Before making any changes, he wanted to see the place for himself. No filters. A few employees nodded as he walked in through the back, polite but distant. That's how people in coveralls were usually treated here. The dealership was already buzzing. Salespeople unlocking cabinets, front desk staff checking schedules, a fresh delivery of SUVs from the night before. Still, nobody really noticed Raymond. That was the point. By 8:15 a.m., the general manager arrived. Colleen Draper walked in wearing red heels, navy slacks and a white blouse tucked in so tight it looked sewn onto her. Her stiff black leather handbag slapped against her thigh as she passed the reception desk. A few sales reps straightened up instantly. "Morning, Miss Draper," one called out. She barely glanced back. "Let's have a strong day, people." Raymond was mopping the showroom floor when she passed him for the first time. Her heels stopped just a few feet away. She turned her head slowly, looking him up and down like he was a stain out of place. "Who approved maintenance in the showroom during business hours?" She snapped, loud enough for 2 customers to look over. Raymond didn't glance up. "Just trying to clean before it gets busy." "Try harder," she hissed. "You're spreading dirt on our high-gloss tile. That mop water looks like coffee. Are you even using a fresh bucket?" He paused, then looked up calmly. "Yes, ma'am. Clean water. Fresh mop head." Colleen scoffed. "This isn't a gas station bathroom. Stay out of sight." Raymond nodded once, turned, and kept mopping toward the side hallway. She shook her head and walked off, muttering about falling standards. None of the employees said a word. A few looked away. One of the younger salesmen, Milo, seemed like he wanted to speak up, but didn't. Raymond wasn't surprised. People don't risk their jobs for the janitor, not when the boss talks like that. But in that moment, he saw everything he needed to. Her tone, the performance, the way she made sure everyone heard. This wasn't about a mop, it was about power. And Colleen had just introduced herself more clearly than any resume ever could. It didn't take long for Colleen Draper to find her next target. Late that afternoon, just before the lunch rush faded, the dealership was unusually busy. A couple was test driving a new SUV. A young family sat at the finance desk. An older man stood by the coffee station flipping through brochures. Upbeat pop music played softly through the speakers. Colleen stood at her usual spot, center stage near the reception desk, watching everything. Raymond wiped down a display stand in the corner, keeping a low profile. His movements were slow, deliberate. He was listening, studying, noticing who flinched when Colleen walked by. Most of them did. Then came the moment. A small child from the young family spilled juice near the front door. The mum scrambled for napkins, embarrassed, but before she could react, Raymond was already there. He knelt quietly, pulling a towel from his cart to clean the mess. The child's father, a thin man in a golf polo, smiled. "Thanks, man. Appreciate it." Raymond gave a quick nod. "No problem." Colleen was coming out of the break room when she saw it. And that was all she needed. "Oh no," she said loudly, marching straight toward him. "You've got to be kidding me." The room didn't go silent, but it shifted. Heads turned. Conversations stalled. Colleen pointed at Raymond like he'd committed a crime. "You're wiping the floor in front of customers? On your knees? What is this, a daycare?" She spun toward the family at the desk. "I'm sorry, really, it won't happen again." The mother tried to object. No, he was helping us. But Colleen wasn't listening. "You think this is what we want? New buyers seeing someone crawling around like a gas station janitor?" She glared at Raymond like he was dirt on her shoe. "You're making us look cheap." Raymond stood up slowly, towel still in hand. He didn't say a word, just looked at her. She shook her head in disgust. "Do you even know how much these cars cost? How hard we work to make this place feel luxury? And you're out here making it look like amateur hour." Milo, the junior salesman, hesitated, then took a step forward. "Miss Draper, maybe it's not your turn, Milo," she snapped, eyes locked on Raymond. "I don't know who hired you, but I'm calling facilities. You shouldn't even be on this floor." Raymond, calm as ever, finally spoke. "You done?" Colleen blinked, thrown off by his tone. "I'm here to work," he said, plainly. "Clean messes, keep the floor safe, that's all I did." She opened her mouth, then closed it. Something in his steady stare unnerved her just for a second. Then she stiffened. "Then clean, in the service bay, not out here where people actually spend money." With that, she spun on her heel and marched off toward the offices. Lana, the young receptionist, shot Raymond an awkward smile as he passed. He didn't return it. He just went back to his cart, wiping down surfaces one towel at a time. But now the room felt different. People whispered, not just about the scene, but about him. The way he stood there, the way he didn't back down, something didn't fit. Back at the finance desk, the child's father leaned toward his wife. "That guy doesn't act like a janitor." His wife nodded. "And she looks like trouble." But Colleen didn't care who was watching. She'd made her point. What she didn't know, so had Raymond. The break room at McAllister Motors wasn't fancy, just a few wobbly tables, a fridge that hummed too loud, and a Keurig that sputtered like an old car. Around 1:45 p.m., a handful of employees sat scattered around the room, half-heartedly eating lunch. Lana, the receptionist, nudged Milo, who hadn't spoken since Colleen's outburst. Across from them, Dana from finance, sharp-eyed and never afraid to say what everyone was thinking, peeled the foil off her turkey wrap. "You saw what happened, right?" Lana whispered. Milo nodded. "Hard to miss." "She didn't need to go off like that," Dana said. "He was just cleaning up after a kid." "She humiliated him in front of customers," Lana muttered. "Twice." Dana leaned in, lowering her voice. "Y'all think there's something weird about him?" Milo frowned. "What do you mean?" "Oh, he doesn't act like a janitor," Dana said. No flinching, no nervous looks. Talks like he's watching us. Lana hesitated. "You think he's corporate?" Dana raised an eyebrow. "Wouldn't be the first time an owner went undercover. My cousin works at a resort. New boss posed as a valet last year." Milo scoffed. "Yeah, but this is Charlotte. That doesn't happen here." Dana pointed her sandwich at him. "Place got sold 3 weeks ago. Colleen's been snapping about the new owner keeping a low profile. And guess what? Nobody even announced who bought it. Just some holding company." Lana's eyes widened. "You think he's the guy?" Dana shrugged. "I don't know, but something's off." Milo leaned back, considering it. The way Raymond moved, quiet, observing, confident, didn't match the uniform. "He did stand up to her," he said slowly. "Didn't even blink." Dana smirked. "And she hated that." Raymond paused outside the break room door, refilling a spray bottle at the utility sink. Through the cracked door, he caught pieces of their conversation, not everything, but enough. The smart ones were starting to connect the dots. Good. He wiped his hands on a towel, glanced at his reflection in the scratched mirror, and gave himself a small, quiet nod. Out in the showroom, Colleen was on the phone, voice sharp enough to cut glass. "No, I'm not overreacting," she snapped. He was kneeling in the showroom like some roadside motel worker. A pause. "I don't care if facilities said he's new. He doesn't belong here." She slammed the phone down. Back in the break room, the conversation had moved on. Lana scrolling her phone, Milo chewing slowly, Dana idly browsing job listings. Just for fun? But the seed was planted, and while Colleen clung to her illusion of control, the room had already started to turn. By the end of his second day, Raymond had seen enough. On the surface, McAllister Motors looked flawless, gleaming cars, bright smiles, spotless floors. But underneath, a workplace built on fear, favoritism, and silence. And Colleen wasn't just part of it, she was the reason it thrived. Raymond had watched her snap at a receptionist for laughing too loud near the front desk, berate a porter for touching a showroom car without gloves, cut off a technician. Mid-sentence, when he tried explaining a warranty issue, then walk away without a word. No one pushed back. No one questioned her. They moved around Colleen like she was a live grenade. Even the assistant manager, Dean Hollow, a guy with over a decade of dealership experience, kept his head down. He carried himself like a man who used to have a voice, but gave it up to survive. Raymond noticed how Dean quietly fixed Colleen's mistakes behind her back, smoothing things over without ever taking credit. One slow afternoon, Raymond wiped a fingerprint off a showroom window and asked, "You been here long?" Dean didn't look up. "Almost 7 years? Seems like you run a tight operation." Dean gave a dry chuckle. "Not my operation." Raymond tilted his head. "Still, you're the one people go to when things need fixing." Dean finally glanced at him. "You're not a regular janitor, are you?" Raymond smiled. "Why do you say that?" Dean hesitated. "No offense, but you carry yourself like someone who doesn't have to be here." Raymond folded his cleaning rag over the bucket. "Maybe I just want to see what happens when people think no one's watching." Dean nodded slowly, something flickering in his eyes. Recognition? Relief? Later, Raymond walked through the service bay, where mechanics sweated under hoods, wiping grease off their hands with stained rags. They worked hard, but none had been invited to the team-building retreat Colleen bragged about to the sales staff. "You think she even knows our names?" one mechanic muttered. "Only if we mess up," another grunted. By mid-afternoon, Raymond passed the conference room where Colleen was giving a speech to the sales team. Marker in hand, she circled numbers on a whiteboard, talking fast about quotas, brand perception, and trust. "You're not just selling cars," she said, scanning the room for weakness. "You're selling us. Every interaction is a reason to stay or walk." Milo shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Colleen's voice sharpened. "Perception is everything. If we're not holding every department to that standard, we're losing." She didn't say Raymond's name. She didn't have to. The room didn't feel motivated. It felt controlled. In the hallway, Raymond leaned against the wall and scribbled 4 words in his pocket notebook. "They work through fear." By closing time, the floors shone, the trash was emptied, and the showroom smelled like lemon cleaner. As Raymond pushed his cart toward the exit, Colleen strode past without stopping. "Let's try not to embarrass us tomorrow. Raymond didn't answer, just kept walking, head high, eyes forward. But Colleen wasn't watching the right things, and what she missed was exactly what Raymond had come for. 3 days later, Colleen was in a rare good mood. Sales were up. Corporate was sending someone to observe operations, which to her meant a chance to show off. She clicked through the dealership with a fresh coat of lipstick, adjusting her blazer between phone calls. The staff relaxed. Lana smiled. Milo even cracked a joke. Then at exactly 10 a.m., a black town car pulled up outside. Colleen stepped toward the glass doors, watching as the driver opened the rear passenger door. Out stepped a middle-aged man in a tailored grey suit, polished shoes, and a gold watch that glinted in the sun. This must be him, she thought. Then the other passenger stepped out. Raymond, no mop, no janitor uniform, just a sharp navy suit, crisp white shirt, and eyes that locked onto hers without flinching. Her smile froze. Maybe it's a mistake. Maybe he's just... The driver cleared his throat. "Good morning, everyone." The driver's voice cut through the silence. "I'd like to introduce Mr. Raymond Ellis, majority owner of Ellis Automotive Holdings. Effective immediately, he is now the principal owner of this dealership." You could have heard a pin drop. Someone at the front desk fumbled a pen. Milo's coffee nearly toppled off the counter. Colleen blinked. "Excuse me?" Raymond stepped forward, calm as ever. "You heard him?" Her jaw clenched. "You're what?" He tilted his head slightly. "The janitor?" "Yeah, that was me, for a few days. Just wanted to see how things ran when nobody was watching." Her eyes darted from him to the driver, then to the staff, most now frozen behind desks, leaning out of doorways, staring. "This is absurd," she snapped, voice rising. "You can't just pretend to be someone else." "Actually, I can," Raymond said, steady. "And I did. The purchase was finalized 3 weeks ago, quiet, clean, through an LLC. I've done it before." "Why?" Colleen demanded, disbelief seeping into her tone. "To see who I'm trusting my business with," Raymond said. "And to see how the people under you are treated." A pause. "I've seen enough." Colleen crossed her arms, scrambling for footing. "You're judging off a few days. That's not even close to a full picture." Raymond's smile vanished. "You judged me in 30 seconds. Silence. The staff didn't breathe. Raymond continued. "You humiliated me. Twice. Loudly. Not because I messed up, but because I didn't look like I belonged here." Colleen's face flushed. "And if that's how you treat someone you think can't fight back," he added, "then I have to wonder how you treat the rest of my team when I'm not around." He turned to the room. "Staff meeting in 1 hour. Everyone, including service and detail." Colleen's voice was barely above a whisper now. "Am I included in that?" Raymond looked at her evenly. "You'll be addressed then." Then he walked away, straight to the conference room. The staff stood frozen for a beat, then slowly returned to their tasks, exchanging glances. In that single moment, the ground had shifted under Colleen Draper's feet, and she was the only one still pretending nothing had changed. But the real reckoning? That was still coming, and no amount of lipstick or spreadsheets would talk her out of it. 45 minutes later, every employee of McAllister Motors was packed into the conference room. Technicians in grease-stained coveralls stood shoulder to shoulder with finance reps in business casual. Some leaned against the back wall, others clutched half-finished coffees. No one knew what to expect except that something big was happening. Raymond stood at the front, hands clasped. No notes, no slides, just presence. "First," he said, scanning the room, "thanks for being here. I know this wasn't on the schedule." A few nervous nods. "My name is Raymond Ellis. Some of you know that name, some don't. That's fine. What you need to know is I now own this dealership." A ripple of movement, sideways glances. "I didn't come here to put on a show," he continued. "I came to listen, and I did." His gaze briefly landed on Colleen, still stiff-armed in the corner, jaw locked. "I spent days mopping floors, taking out trash, hearing the conversations that happen when people think no one's watching." The room held its breath. What I saw told me everything. Who carries weight, who feels safe speaking up, who doesn't. Silence, heavy. I saw people walking on eggshells, not from pressure to perform, but from fear. Fear of being humiliated, dismissed, singled out. Milo glanced at Lana. She stared at the floor. Raymond stepped forward. And I get it. You've got bills, families, you keep your head down to survive, but you shouldn't have to survive your workplace. Someone in the back exhaled sharply. I'm not here to play hero, Raymond said. But things are changing. The way this place has been run doesn't match what I stand for or what I expect from leadership. Now his eyes locked on Colleen. Miss Draper. She looked up, shoulders rigid. You've run this dealership for how long? 5 years, she said, voice icy. You've brought profit, no question, but profit without people means nothing to me. A beat. If your leadership relies on shame, we've got a problem. A shift in the room, a quiet nod near the front, a whispered, damn. Colleen opened her mouth. I've done what I thought was best. I'm not here to debate. Raymond cut in, polite but firm. I'm telling you, your approach doesn't fit here anymore. All leadership roles are under review, including yours. Her lips pressed into a thin line, but she didn't speak. Raymond turned back to the room. This place is changing, starting with transparency, fairness, real communication. If you've got ideas, concerns, I want to hear them directly. A tech in the back crossed his arms, not in defiance, but hope. This isn't about revenge, Raymond said. It's about respect, and that goes both ways. A nod. Meetings done? People filed out slowly, no rushing, no chatter. But something had shifted, for real, shoulders looser, heads higher. Colleen stayed in the corner, staring straight ahead. Raymond didn't look at her again, but she knew. This wasn't just about a job, it was about being seen. And now? She couldn't hide behind her title anymore. McAllister Motors was quieter than usual, not from lack of customers, but from a different kind of silence. Employees walked in like they weren't sure where they stood. Glances were exchanged, heads kept down. Even Colleen, who usually strutted through the building like she owned the place, moved with slower steps, lips tight. Raymond had arrived early again, but this time, no mop bucket. He was upstairs in the owner's suite, the one that had sat empty for weeks. The door now bore a simple plaque, R. Ellis. At 10 a.m., he called for Colleen. She walked in, arms folded, mouth a neutral line. She didn't sit until he motioned to the chair. This isn't a courtroom, Raymond said. You can breathe. Colleen let out a dry, bitter laugh. I suppose you want my resignation? No, he said simply. I want the truth. That stopped her. I want to know how things got this way, how you convinced yourself that fear would lead to excellence. Colleen sat back. For the first time, her voice wasn't sharp, just tired. When I got here, this place was chaos. Sales were flat, morale was dead. Everyone acted like they were working a backyard BBQ, not a luxury dealership. She straightened slightly. I brought structure, control, and it worked. We became the top-performing branch in the state. At what cost? Raymond asked. She didn't answer. You humiliated your staff, turned leadership into a performance. He continued. You confused discipline with dominance. That's not leadership, Colleen. That's insecurity dressed up in authority. I was keeping things tight, she snapped, keeping people focused. You kept them silent, he corrected, and they still performed, not because of you, in spite of you. A flicker in her jaw. Raymond leaned back. You're smart, capable, you know how to move numbers, but what you lack, emotional discipline, and that matters more than you think. So what happens now? She asked flatly. You're on leave, effective immediately, paid, for now. HR will schedule your exit review. You can apply elsewhere in 6 months. But here, it's done. She stared at him, not angry, not even surprised, just hollow. Raymond stood and extended his hand. She looked at it, then shook it without a word. On her way out, she passed Dean, waiting outside the office. He didn't smirk. Didn't pity her, just met her eyes, firm. Then he walked in. Raymond nodded to the chair. "Have a seat." Dean sat cautiously. "I watched you this week," Raymond said. "You clean up messes no one sees, keep this place running behind the scenes. That's quiet leadership, and I respect it." Dean exhaled. "You're not like the others." Raymond smiled. "That's the point." 20 minutes later, Dean walked out as interim GM, pending a trial period. Downstairs, word spread fast. By lunch, everyone knew Colleen was gone. No one cheered, but shoulders relaxed. In the service bay, 2 techs bumped fists. In the showroom, Milo smirked at Lana. "Told you he wasn't just a janitor," she whispered. Dana grinned. This might actually be okay. But Raymond wasn't done. Cleanup came first, then trust. And that would take more than a new name on the door. On the surface, McAllister Motors looked the same shiny cars, same logo. But inside, a new rhythm, not perfect, but real. Jokes returned to the break room. The receptionist laughed without flinching. And when Raymond met with teams, he didn't lecture, he listened. That Friday, as employees gathered for Dean's backlot cookout, Raymond stepped onto a pallet. No microphone, no script. "All right, everybody, quick words before the burgers vanish." Laughter rolled through the crowd. "I bought this place because dealerships don't run on cars, they run on people. People who show up early, solve problems, and make customers feel seen." He scanned the faces, hopeful, wary, relieved. That doesn't happen because someone's good at their job. It happens when people feel respected. A pause, and that goes both ways. Heads nodded. Even the service guys, usually silent, watched closely. "I'll miss things, but I won't stop listening. If something's broken, tell me. Got a better idea? Speak up. You don't need a title to matter." Then quieter. "The uniform doesn't define you. The car you drive doesn't. The way you treat people? That does." A hush fell. Not stiff, just true. Dean clapped first. Others followed. Not thunderous applause, but steady, sincere. As the sun set, Raymond stood near the service bay. The mop bucket sat where he'd left it weeks ago. He looked at it, then walked away. Because respect isn't given once. It's earned daily, in choices, in listening. And the biggest lessons, they come from staying quiet long enough to hear what no one dares say aloud. Finn.